Good morning. Hi, my name is Doc, and this is a podcast about knitting and spinning and all the beautiful things you can create with yarn and wool and fiber. And thank you for joining me today. I want to talk about the things that I've been up to in the past 2 weeks. And I have a few things to show you. And first of all, let me start with something that you've seen almost finished last time. And these are my socks that I have, not mine. They're the socks that I made for my daughter for her 16th birthday. They are finished. They are knitted with a sport weight yarn, which is a discontinued base that I carried, ZiaWoolz, and I have made these with 3mm needles and a stitch count of 56 stitches in a custom colorway. I had overdyed something that I thought was too bright for her, but I know she likes the sport weight. It's very soft and cozy, so I think this is very much in her color palette. All done, she can finally have them. Next, I want to show you my indie mashup shawl. This is a pattern by Annie Lupton, and I have made the shawl twice, and the first version had partly hand spun yarn. The second one that I have made is made with all hand spun, and it is with fibers. The fibers are from Redfish Dyeworks. It's a 50-50 yak silk blend, and the other colorway, I used 3 colors. The other colorway is a 50-50 merino silk blend, and the third one is a 70-30 BFL silk. Altogether, the yak silk, of course, is the softest of them all, and that's this dark blue section that I started with. This is the merino silk. The burgundy purplish color, and then the BFL silk was the one with the high, well, it is high contrast in comparison to the rest, but it picks up the colors that are in the rest of the shawl. Just a paler blue and a paler pinkish purplish color. It's done, and really large, because as in my first version, I kept going a little bit longer with the yarn that I had to use up everything that I had, and what I ended up having leftover, that's just this little bit more than I wanted, but still, okay, all good. I think I said 4.5mm needles, right? So next is another project that I had shown you before. It is the Southern Shawl, a pattern by Truly Myrtle Designs. Libby Johnson, who used to have a podcast, I don't know if she still podcasts. So again, the story is well, let's start from the beginning. I made the shawl, I was almost to the lace section, so this is what it looks like. Oops, sorry about the noise and the shaking. So I was almost to the lace section. No, I was ready to start the lace section, and then I counted my stitches, wanted to divide everything up. My stitch count was off, way off, not just a few stitches, but like 30 something stitches. Took me a while to figure it out, but I had added a whole section of the stockinette and the garter. So, okay, of course, we all don't mind a larger shawl, I think. And so I thought, I'll just figure it out. Okay, so I did figure it out. I made it work for the shawl, for the lace pattern. I was halfway into the lace and I realized I was going to run out of yarn before I can finish. So I ended up dyeing another skein of yarn to match, which ended up a little bit darker. So then I had to decide, am I gonna use that and start where I was, or what am I gonna do? So I ripped back the lace section because I thought that way the whole lace section is going to be darker and not just half lighter, half darker. I thought that would look stupid. So, but once I had ripped back, I had this whole ball of the yarn in the lighter colorway. And I thought, what am I going to do with that? I'm going to have half a ball of the lighter, half a ball of the darker left over. That makes no sense. So let's just knit up the lighter color in the stockinette and garter section and then figure it out, because I had to figure out the stitch count for the lace anyways. So I had to do some math and whatever. So that's what I did. And this is what it looks like. Finally, gotta show you this thing. I want to say it's a little more yellow than it shows on camera now. And I have to tell you that, in fact, the differences in the colorways don't show up that much. Maybe it's because it's a different kind of stitch pattern, but it's totally fine. So again, to show you all of, from here on, all the way down here, I have these two sections that I added on, and then these two as well. And I used, for that final stretch, I used about half a skein of yarn, a little bit less. And the yarn, which I have not told you, is my new base, which is called ZiaWoolz. It's it's almost my most luxurious. Well, I have others with silk, but this one is the one with the cashmere. And it feels extremely soft and cozy. So it's an MCN merino, superwash merino nylon and cashmere blend. And this one is in the colorway The Beekeeper's Daughter. Love it. It's huge. And it was kind of like, I didn't really know what to expect in terms of the size, because you will laugh when I show you the needle I have used. 4 millimeters, by the way, 4 millimeter COWBOY. This small. So you can imagine, I had no idea how big this thing was going to turn out, which was a fun surprise. I like that. So, the Southern Shawl, Libby Johnson. Okay. Another project that I showed you last time was a spinning project. So I worked with a yarn with a fiber that I purchased at the THEA Wool Festival last October, and I decided to spin it up quickly before this year's Wool Festival. It is processed by Yampa Valley Fiber Works. Don't remember the fiber content. And once I spun it, it very much looked like dryer lint. So I called it my lint yarn. I call it my lint yarn. So this project is kind of interesting. So I spun the yarn at the same time. Once I cruised Ravelry, I was looking for suitable projects where I thought, oh, what can I make with the yarn? What's a nice sweater that would work with the weight that I'm getting? And I had shown you the Siri last time, which is a cardigan that I really like. This is a top-down one, I think, as far as I remember. But then I also found the Fog Cutter by THEA COLMAN. And I was pretty much set on this one because I decided I'd rather have just one of the Siri in the grayish, black and whitish alpaca yarn that I showed in the last episode. So it was going to be the Fog Cutter, but then I did the math with my yardage and I thought I was really cutting it very close. And I did not want to end up with a serious problem because this is a pieced sweater. So I would essentially end up lacking yarn for these sections if I do the sleeves last. And I didn't want that. So I was thinking it would have to be a top down, then I can make a cropped sweater, or I can make 3/4 sleeves, something like that. So then at the same time I was watching the Naughty Knitwits podcast, and Michelle talked about a V-neck top-down sweater that she would like to make, and I thought, oh, what a nice idea. That, you know, that way you save a little more yarn, and is there such a thing? And I started cruising, didn't find anything that I liked, but then I thought, well, can I? It got my gears going. I thought, can I do this? Can I transform a pattern into a V-neck, a round neck pattern? So, and which brought me to a pattern which I love very much, and I have knitted this up 3 times already. Well, I shouldn't say that, 2.5 times. The third version is still missing the sleeves. So, but I've made it twice already, really like it, and that's a pattern by Isabel Kramer, and it's the Daylin pullover. That's it. And I will show you the one that I'm working on already in a minute. So I was thinking I'm going to try to transform this into a V-neck. I made these crazy wonky designs and did a little bit, try to pretend that I'm good at math and figure it out. But essentially what I got to do is I just got to start knitting this and see if it works or not. Because of course, what happens once you do short rows is you're gonna need extra stitches for this front section because you cast on everything at once, for the whole neckline, but then you work the short rows. And I'm not giving away anything with this picture because that's what Isabel Kramer put up in the comments for her sweater herself, which I thought very interesting. Kind of, that was a little bit helpful for me, but not quite. I had to figure it out a different way. So I'm still chickening out a little bit because, and that's why I haven't cast on yet, but I'm ready. I got one skein balled up. I got my needle here, 4.5 millimeters. And I got my yarn all spun in a box. There it is. Now I just got to do it. Wish me luck. Hope it'll work. So, and here is the Daylin sweater, the third that I'm making for Fiona. It lives in a bag which used to belong to her. She used to keep her toys in this when we traveled or organize her stuff in this. And I thought that way I know it's hers. Her sweater in this bag. So what I am using for this is one of my ZiaWoolz yarns, and the story is I had made the same sweater out of a different colorway for myself, and she tried it on and really liked it. However, it's a bright green and she would never want that color, or I would have given it to her. It wouldn't have mattered to me. So then I thought, what am I going to do? What color am I going to do for her? And I came up with this, which I called Nightfall. And this is an alpaca merino silk blend, a non-super wash. And I know that she's going to be good with this even when she's not living at home anymore. She's going to hand wash and be careful about it. And this is where I am with this. I made it this summer when we were in Germany, and I put up some pictures on my Ravelry page where she tried this on. Did not alternate skeins. It's maybe visible a little bit, but that's okay. Doesn't bother me or her. And I have usually dyed this yarn only in batches of 2 skeins. So this takes 5 skeins. So that was something that I really wanted to do. Well, I didn't want to push it because it's hard. It's a yarn that's hard to dye. I mean, what is hard? It's kind of hard to set and whatnot, hard to get even. And so I decided to go with the small batches. But for the sweater amount, of course, I had to do it all in one to get them even. And that, but I think it worked out okay for mine, which was the first run, the green one, which you'll probably see at some point in the future, and for hers. So it was pretty chilly last week, so we've been talked about this. I really got to get going on this and finish it so she can wear it soon. But the weather is going to switch again, so the coming week we're going to have warm temperatures again, 25 degrees Celsius, which is about in the mid 70s. So no rush again. Maybe I'll take this to Taos Wool Festival, where I'm going to go with I'm going to go there with a few friends. Super exciting, fun girl trip. And we'll spend the night. We rented a little apartment. We're going to be 5 women and 2 more that are going to meet us there and spend the day. And the rest of us is going to spend the night. And I'm sure it's going to be great fun, great fun. I'm going to tell you about it afterwards. So that was my story about the Daylin sweater pattern by Isabel Kramer. What's next? Oh yes, my spinning. My goodness. So last time I showed you the braids that I had dyed in the braid. So I picked one and I spun half of it and started knitting socks. So fun. So I'm really happy that I'm doing this. And it's a fun experiment. It was at first because I dyed it in the braid. So I wasn't sure how I would like it once I take it apart and spin it. But the thing was, so I split the braid in half, and I mean, I divided it in half, I should say. Wow, that fuzz just got me sneezing. So again, back to the braid. So for spinning, I took the braid, I split it in half, and then every section I divided in 2 halves again, and that's how I spun it. And what you need to know is that, oh yeah, and then for 2-plying it, okay? So what you need to know is that this is not, I want to say, not a very common thing to have really short sections. At least for me, when I dyed fiber, I used to dye it in longer sections, maybe like this, or even more. That would be one color, green, then this much orange, then this much gray, for example. So to have these short sections, that was really new. And then there was a lot of the white in between. I wasn't sure how it would spin up, and I was curious to see how that would work out. And it was such an interesting experience because it didn't turn out the way I expected. I thought it would just have white and colored section, but it turned out altogether pastelish. Look at this. This is my sock. This is where I am right now. I am knitting this, I got a fingering weight, and I am knitting this the way I would knit any sock with commercial yarn with 2.5 millimeter needles and a stitch count of 64 stitches. Tight knitter, I got a very dense sock here. However, I thought the plies, I wouldn't mind if this was plied tighter. So what I am planning after this first half, after I'm using this for the first sock, when I spin the second half, I will ply this tighter. I will give it more twist in the first thread for the first threads, and then of course it's going to have more twist for the finished 2-ply yarn. So we'll see, and then I'm going to mark them somehow so I know which one is which, and I will actually have a real comparison in the wear of the two socks, and I will see if this makes a difference. The fiber is an 80/20 superwash merino nylon. So fun experiment. So what's next? This is such a great project. Let me grab something real quick. I have a cardigan, which is store-bought, cheap. It was cheap, it was on sale, it was 100% acrylic, it was a spur of the moment purchase because it was just, I think, 13 bucks, yes. And this is how it looks like. Let me put it on so you get the picture. It has a huge collar which folds down, and it's very big. This is me, and a lot of positive ease. About this much. I want to make this. I want to knit this. And I brought the cardigan to Germany. I went to my favorite yarn store there, Lana Grossa. I bought yarn. I specifically searched for a yarn that I could use to replicate this cardigan. And what I found and picked was this. It's a Lana Grossa yarn. It's called Lala Berlin, and it is a blend of, let me find this. So 49% man-made plastic, that's what I call it, polyamide and polyacrylic, and 14% virgin wool and 37% alpaca. So once I sampled for this, I did not enjoy knitting with this at all. And it's kind of funny because you think, oh, fuzzy yarn, that should feel good. But the core thread is kind of hard and stiff. That's the only thing I could figure out why I didn't like it. It's almost like a cotton, where it tends to hurt your hands a little bit. So what to do? I went stash diving. And I thought what I will do is I will hold this with another yarn and make it even a little bit bigger, give it a little more substance, and hopefully have a more pleasant knitting experience. So I pulled out a lot of different yarns, in different colors where I had a good amount. I had some variegated, I had some high contrast colors, but what I finally settled on was something that I found in not just deep stash, but seriously vintage stash. I'm sure I've had this for 15 years or so. And it really makes me happy that I can use it finally. That's so nice. It's not, I have to say, it's probably something that I scored somewhere, maybe in a thrift store or something, for a great price. And even though I wasn't sure if I was going to knit with it, I mean, because I would not really knit a garment out of just this yarn with just this color. I go more towards the greens and the orange or yellow, and actually this is also kind of an exception about this. I don't know. I think it was the only color in this yarn that I really liked. That's why I settled on this. Holding these two together, fabulous. Gives a slight variation in the knitted fabric, and I have started and I really like it. I call this my copycat sweater. I hope I'm not going to get in trouble with this. And the pattern that I'm using is the way the store-bought version has, I think it's called a double moss stitch. So where it's a knit, purl, same on the row back, but then you switch purl, knit, and for the next 2 rows. And hopefully this will fly off my needles because this is for the back. Again, big, and 52 stitches. Ba-bam. This will happen quickly, I hope. So that's my copycat, and what I want to do, a little bit about the construction of this. Oh yes, and the needle size. Those are 10mm needles. That's why I only need that little stitches. So the back is pretty much just a square. However, the shoulders will get a little bit of shaping with short rows, the way the sweater has it here. And then the collar is really knitted, added on to the front piece right away. It's all knitted in one, and then it goes. How can I show you this? Wait. So this is the shoulder seam. So then this piece is continued a little bit longer and is attached to the shoulder. Wait, where is it? Here. This is the part where it's attached then to the neck and then seamed up in the middle right here, where of course you could also graft together. I'll see how I'll do that. I'll keep you posted. That's my copycat. Okay, so another thing that I wanted to mention and show you, that's 2 patterns which I discovered on Ravelry, and that that really intrigued me, so that I got a printout right away, purchased them. One of them is another large shawl. It's kind of funny because again, it's an Isabel Kramer pattern. It's called A Girl's Best Friend, and this will be coming up in my future. Maybe I'll find some nice yarn or fiber and I can do it with hand spun, even though she uses a fingering yarn for it. Only thing I have to say I dislike, or I wish it was charted. I don't like to work a lace pattern from written instructions, and this has a lacy section here. Let's see. I mean, I'll survive. I'll survive. The other one is a color work. Just a little. So cute. It's called September Stars Beanie. And if you go to the pattern page, the designer has these hats in a variety of colors on there, and it looks so cute when you see them all next to each other in the different color combos. Very nice. Okay, that was all in terms of my knitting and spinning in the past 2 weeks. I have brought a few yarns that I have dyed and that will go in the ZiaWoolz shop on Etsy. You can find me through my website, ZiaWoolz.com, or you can go straight to Etsy and look for the ZiaWoolz shop. So at first I wanted to tell you a story. You know how it always looks so pretty and colorful when dyers show their stuff, but I wanted to mention that things happen sometimes. And so I had this weird thing happen to me where I had worked on this large wholesale order for the yarn store in Taos, and then I was working on a Halloween colorway, and I thought, well, let's dye up a skein in that sport weight, in my new non-superwash sport weight base. Maybe someone wants to make a hat or something, or I do, or whatever. And it turned out so terrible. I don't even know what I did, to be honest. I had to over dye it because it was all just mushed up. The colors didn't turn out right, and you will see how pretty the Halloween colorway is once it's done right. So I ended up having to over dye this skein of meant to be a Halloween colorway, but now I really love it. I mean, I over dyed it in an almost black, and this is how it looks like now. It has some faded variation in here. I don't want to call them speckled because it's very washed out, but I really like it. Green and black and a kind of like a hint of rust here. Nice. Yeah, fun experience. On the other hand, then there are these moments where you try something else. You think, oh, let's do this and that. And then you come up with a new colorway where you're like, oh, your heartbeat stops. And that was, for me, I have to say, one that I have named the Blue Planet. And that is this one. Oh, I love it so much. The Blue Planet. And I thought I would say something in general about my different bases. I have by now a variety of fingering weights, and this, what I just showed you, is a 2-ply sock yarn, which is called DREAMCATCHER. It's your standard 2-ply sock yarn. Then let me just grab this. So the DREAMCATCHER is an 80/20 superwash merino nylon, 100 grams and it has 400 yards. Then I also have my THEA, which if you have a tiny foot, this will give you 2 socks if you don't knit them high, because it's a 4 ounces, 434 yards, or if you combine it with a mini, you know, for the ribbing and the toes or the heel or something. And that would be my THEA, which is a 4-ply, and it's a very round yarn. Great for a pattern sock where you get a beautiful stitch definition, I find. And this is the colorway Where is Willie. And everything that I'm showing you right now will be going into my shop, like I said. So I have DREAMCATCHER, I have THEA, 4 ounce. I have Taos, and Taos here with in the colorway New Mexico True. Taos is a superwash Corriedale nylon blend, which takes the dye a little bit differently, but I really love this for socks because I throw these in the washer. I do have a good washing machine, but I think this would take every washer unless you wash it too hot. And it's, if you feel it now, it's almost a little crunchy. I don't even know how to describe it. It's not scratchy, but not like your merino yarn. But once it's washed, it softens up, it gets fuzzy and cozy and really lovely. So these 3, and then the 4th and is my SUNDANCER base, which is a 463 yards on 100 grams superwash merino nylon blend. And let me show you my Halloween colorway. Very exciting. It's called Creeper. This is it. I hope you can see how fun this is. I have a few skeins of the SUNDANCER and the Creeper colorway, but I have also dyed up 1 skein of Creeper in the sports sock weight on my Chama base, which is that the cabled version of the sport yarn. 100% superwash merino. Fun. So those were these. Then to show you what else is in the shop, I have on Chama again the Beekeeper's Son. And if you don't know this, I have come up with the whole beekeeper family, long story. And so there's the Beekeeper's Daughter, which was my shawl. This is the Beekeeper's Son. And where is the Beekeeper? I don't know if I even have some. I do have the Beekeeper's Best Friend, and there is a Beekeeper's Boyfriend also, which I haven't dyed yet recently, but this is the Beekeeper's Best Friend. And there's also a Beekeeper's Apprentice, which I just saw. There's 1 more skein in my local yarn store, and the yarn store at Nob Hill, they have 1 more left. Caught my eye when I was there. So this was the Beekeeper's Son on Chama, sport weight. This was the Beekeeper's Son. I dyed up 1 skein on my JEMEZ, the non-superwash base. And this is how you spell JEMEZ. It's in a mountain area here, gorgeous mountain area for hiking and such here in New Mexico. Here is Almost Willy, which is kind of similar to the Beekeeper's Sun, but the Beekeeper's Sun has more green in it. This is, again, my Chama base. I have 2 more colorways of the non-superwash. That will be in the shop. More tonal. It would be really nice for a nice stitch pattern where you don't want to go solid, but you don't want the yarn to overpower your project, your stitch pattern. And this is the colorway Tiny Dancer. And the other one is Cowboy Blues. So last but not least, I have a few of my worsted weight base. I have dyed a few skeins that I have put in the shop, that I will be putting in the shop, I should say. And I don't know how the interest is. Generally, I find people are more interested in fingering weight, but it's a really nice, super soft and squishy base. It's a 4-ounce skein that gives you a yardage of 280. And here are the ones that I have. The Beekeeper's Best Friend, Solid, Fall Fest, Aquarius, and Hot Pads. I have not yet combined these new colorways in a project, but I'm thinking some of them would look really, really great in a brioche, 2-color brioche. I don't know if it wouldn't be too much with this one also. Nah. Or how about these guys? That would be nice. I have tried one of those 2-colored brioche hats with the Duke worsted weight yarn, and it looks really nice. It's fun. So there will be 1 skein of the new MCN, the Merino Cashmere Nylon Blend, coming in the shop. And it's the first time it's up for shopping, and I have dyed it up in the colorway The Beekeeper's Sun. All right. And this is it for today. I'm looking forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks. I hope you will all be busy making something really pretty in the meantime. Keep knitting and crocheting. I hope you liked to see what I've been up to, and I will see you again in 2 weeks. Bye.